hero but as a level 1 NPC. Our protagonist is trapped in a world full of magic, monsters and legendary heroines with a big twist. He has to defeat the main hero and complete the game's story himself. Join me as we dive into this epic story of survival, strategy and unexpected heroism. Let's get started.
The tale starts with a man with dark hair waking up in an old room. Through the window, he sees an impressive castle, bathed in sunlight, and is greatly astonished by the sight. As he gazes at the view, he wonders aloud if he somehow ended up in the game he used to play. He recalls that, 3 years prior, he had taken over the body of a character from the game Heroic Legends of Arhen. The story involved dangerous events and unending chaos at the academy, eventually leading to the world's end. It was an immense and complex storyline. Yet, no need to worry. The protagonist would handle the problems. And he was just a minor character. His name? Corin Locke, a level 1 NPC. Corin believes he's merely an ordinary NPC in a beginner's quest, where the hero saves a villager. Stepping outside, Corin surveys his surroundings and marvels at how lifelike everything seems. He comforts himself with the thought that as long as this world follows the game's plot, things should go smoothly. Walking through the city streets, Corin muses about meeting Park C, the hero who's destined for fame and fortune. He looks around, trying to recall the hero's spawn point. Noticing a young man on a bench mumbling about wanting sweet potatoes or a soda, Corin is intrigued. The man stands up, covering his face with one hand, declaring that he'll live his life to the fullest. Corin instinctively grabs his arm, surprising the young man. With a smile, Corin says he'll do the same, realizing that Park C, who, like him, is also trapped in this game. Corin remembers his own experiences in the game, pondering how the only real difference between him and Park C, who lies in the privileges granted to main characters and the game's status windows. As Park C, who examines his system interface, he wonders what to do next. Corin, who's never fully completed the game, believes he can help fill the gaps. He embraces Park C, who, reminding him that to become a magician, he must improve his intelligence, and also not forget to acquire a skill book, an essential item. Confidently, Corin reassures Park C, that he's an expert on the game, having mastered every aspect of Heroic Legends of Arhen. Having Corin as an ally would be a huge advantage. Suddenly, a large dog prepares to attack Corin from behind, its barking startling him. But Park C, who is already aware of the danger and casts a spell, forming a magic circle with his staff to defeat the beast. Turning with a smile, he asks if Corin is alright. Later on, the two battle against more vicious dogs. Corin is confident that his knowledge of the game combined with Park C, whose stats and system abilities make them a perfect duo. He believes they can save many lives, prevent the world's destruction, and even return to the real world. At one point, Park C, who pulls out a potion, much to Corin's surprise, who asks where he found such a high-grade item for this level. Park C, who drinks it, looking thoughtful. As Corin reflects, he's mildly disappointed that their party consists only of men. In the action fantasy game, there had been many heroines and romantic elements. However, Park C, who avoided interacting with the women, only adding them to the team when necessary, which left their group filled with sweaty men. Corin realizes he should have seen the signs earlier, when the granddaughter of the Sword Emperor died before the Academy's entrance ceremony, when Maria, the first boss, vanished without a trace, when mysterious murders began. The story had diverged from the original plot, and most telling of all was Park C, whose odd reaction to these changes. Corin regrets not being more suspicious. Sometime later, Corin is shocked and wonders aloud what's going on. He thinks about Maria Dunnerf, one of the game's heroes, whom he and Park C, who had never met due to her disappearance. But now he finds himself staring at a hidden fragment, the wand of Marius Dunnerf, and questions why it's here. Turning to Park C, who, Corin reveals he had been secretly following him at night, never expecting to find such a place underground. It resembles an inventory. Corin is stunned when he spots another hidden fragment, an odachi, and asks why it's there. The sword had disappeared along with another heroine, Arisha. And that's not all. Corin also sees Jaeger's mace, Lark's spellbook, and other rare items. He realizes these are the belongings of the heroes who vanished as the game unfolded. He stares in utter shock at the girl trapped inside the flask, her hands and feet bound by chains. As he examines her face, he wonders, is this Maria Dunnerf? Just then, Park C, who arrives, standing behind him and saying something to catch his attention. The sudden interruption startles him. Corin turns to face him, covering half his face with one hand, and demands, "What are you doing here?" He then questions Park C, who about the situation, recalling that he had mentioned going after Maria but had lost track of her. Park C, who, understanding what Corin meant, explains that she is still a demon, and asks, isn't the blood of an ancient vampire valuable? He adds that he has found a more effective use for it, and that he tasted the blood too. Corin is utterly shocked by this revelation. His mind flashes back to the potion Park C, who drank earlier, and the realization makes him feel nauseous and repulsed. Park C, who, noticing his reaction, asks, "What's wrong with you?" He boasts about how hard he worked to capture Maria, spending an entire month in the forest setting traps. Corin, now furious, demands to know why he did all of this. Park C, who, unfazed, calmly replies that it was for the sake of advancing the story more efficiently. He accuses Corin of slowing things down with his constant rescuing of people, causing only losses. He criticizes Corin for sparing figures like Jaeger and Lark, and for insisting on helping those who can't even be manipulated without raising friendship levels. Using them this way is far more effective, he says, insisting that Corin should listen because he's better at the game. Corin realizes that Park C, who had been lying to him from the beginning, he wasn't a newcomer at all. Collapsing to the ground, Corin asks how many people he has killed. Park C, who pauses and replies that he doesn't even know, but after a quick calculation, notes that if he kills 3 more, the total will reach 100,000. Horrified, Corin concludes that Park C, who is no longer human. Grabbing him by the clothes, Corin shouts that he is nothing but a cursed monster. Park C, who, unfazed, responds that they were just ordinary NPCs, and Corin had killed them too. Corin admits this but insists he only killed villains who couldn't be saved, those who longed for the world's destruction. Corin, now furious, confronts Park C, who, accusing him of being obsessed with efficiency. He points out inconsistencies in his logic. Why would Odachi be taken? Why would a magician deal with a hidden fragment meant for knights? He questions why Park C, who didn't just use a regular elixir or follow the system's more straightforward methods instead of resorting to this inefficient process of creating a farm. Before Park C, who can respond, Corin loudly interrupts, accusing him of using this as an excuse to indulge his sociopathic tendencies. Surprised by the outburst, Park C, whose eyes begin to glow menacingly, with a swift movement, he grabs Corin by the hair, violently shoving his head against the flask containing Maria. Corin slumps down, blood trickling from his forehead and leaving streaks on the glass. Park C, who, visibly angered, scolds Corin, saying that after everything he had done for him, Corin had no right to speak to him that way. "That's all you think about," he yells, grabbing him by the clothes again, demanding that Corin should be everything to him, his entire world. He accuses Corin of meddling where he doesn't belong and says that all he does is gaze at girls. Park C, who, now furious, declares that he won't hold back anymore. Corin stares at him in confusion, trying to make sense of his words. He begins crawling away, insisting that he isn't the kind of character Park C, who imagines him to be. After spending 199 chapters together, he's shocked at how abruptly things have changed. Park C, who, standing over him, releases his energy, proclaiming that he's eliminated everything standing in his way, all for their future. Corin, terrified, realizes that this explains why their team had only men. Park C, who coldly replies that he only keeps the men around for appearances, so he doesn't have to think about them. "The only person I truly love is you," he says. Horrified, Corin punches him in the face and immediately starts running. As he flees, magical threads begin to chase him, wrapping around his leg. The threads multiply, ensnaring his entire body, and he screams in agony as they constrict him, forcing him to his knees. In desperation, Corin begs Park C. Who to stop. Standing over him with a cruel smile, Park C. Who tells him there's no escape. He's going to lock him up there forever. As Park C. Who creates energy circuits around them, he tells Corin that in this fake world, only he is real. Engulfed by the energy, Corin, still terrified, tells him he's scared out of his mind. Park C. Who continues casting his spell, causing Corin to vanish, and he declares that it will all be over soon. He smirks and says that with just one more fight, they'll be together forever. Corin finds himself in a strange, unknown space and wonders aloud if this was Park C. Whose plan all along. Suddenly, the system notifies that the final stage is beginning. Floating in the void, Corin reflects that this is where it all started. This freak always killed alone, he thinks, so he can defeat this boss too. But what will happen next? He has no idea. What's going to happen to him? A red system notification suddenly pops up in front of him, announcing that the player is dead and the test has failed. Corin is taken aback by this and wonders if that idiot actually lost. Suddenly, he finds himself waking up in the same house he did at the very start. Jumping to his feet, he's still in disbelief over what just transpired. He looks out the window toward the castle and realizes that he has been sent back 3 years. Back to the day he first found himself in this game. Filled with rage, Corin clenches his fists tightly and begins to tremble. Tears well up as he vows to kill him. One of his eyes changes color as the thought of eliminating the player consumes him. Some time passes. The system alerts him that the Roshan River incident is beginning. Corin recalls how, during the mission to subdue the water monsters, a dam collapsed, sweeping away an entire village with it. Thousands of people and monsters perished in the disaster. Park C. Who, laughing at the devastation, calls it incredible. Corin stares at him in confusion, not understanding why he found it so funny at the time. But now, it's clear, Park C. Who saw the countless deaths as an opportunity to hoard experience points. Corin remembers how Park C. Who mentioned that with 3 more kills, he'd reach 100,000. He's a cursed demon, Corin thinks as he sprints forward, convinced he can stop him right now, while he's still just a regular rank 5 rookie like him. All power-ups available to players are concentrated in Merkaba Academy, and once Park C. Who enters the academy, he will become much stronger. He may not be a true monster yet, but his power could grow at an alarming rate. The admission ceremony is just 5 days away. Sometime later, Corin is picking mushrooms in the woods. Looking at them, he realizes the only way to stop Park C. Who is to act now. The system notifies him that a training quest has been completed. A carriage en route to Merkaba City broke down in the middle of a monster-filled forest. Corin must protect the travelers and their guards until the carriage is repaired. Later, after defeating the monster, a guy says they're done here. A girl standing next to him comments on his impressive skills. Park C. Who laughs modestly and thanks her for the compliment. A man with a lantern by the carriage calls Leon and Laura, announcing that everything's ready. The two walk over, and the girl expresses her desire to sleep during the journey. Suddenly, a loud noise draws their attention, and they turn toward the source. In the next instant, they see a large log flying toward them at high speed. Leon pushes Laura out of the way, warning her to be careful, as he barely manages to dodge the log, which crashes between them. He draws his sword and calls her name. Laura, also drawing her sword, remarks that she recognizes the cry. They're facing a second-rank werewolf. The werewolf lets out a deafening roar, releasing a surge of energy. Hidden in the bushes, Corin, panting from his long run to get there, wonders if the battle has already begun. He curses his lack of preparation, realizing he was too late to stop it. The werewolf slashes Laura with a powerful paw, and she screams in agony. Corin contemplates whether he can still save these people. Meanwhile, Leon is stunned and shouts Laura's name in panic. After composing himself, he turns to the carriage, telling everyone to get inside quickly to buy some time. Park Si, who instructs the people in the carriage to leave, assuring them that they'll catch up. A girl in the carriage tries to call out to him, but Park Si, who turns and insists he cannot abandon them. Leon, now quieter, tells Park Si, who that he should flee. But as Park Si, who looks at him, he sees the werewolf gripping Leon by the throat. Stunned, he stares at the creature in front of him. From his hiding spot, Kareen watches closely, thinking he must confirm if this is truly the hero who will save the world or if he's just as human as everyone else. Park Si, who stands before the werewolf, looking surprised at its sheer size, but then his eyes gleam, and he grins, remarking on the beast's impressive bulk. The werewolf lets out another ear-splitting roar, its jaws wide open. The girl from the carriage charges toward the werewolf, swinging her sword, yelling for Park Si, who to duck. She strikes the werewolf, but to her shock, the beast blocks her attack with its paw. Did this monster really block my blow? She wonders as she jumps back, landing beside a surprised Park Si, who? She urges him to step aside, promising to handle the creature. Park Si, who calmly observes her, thinking she's Arisha Arden, the second daughter of the Arden family, wielder of Odachi, one of the 6 royal swords, and the most vital member of the squad, a renowned hero. As Park Si, who begins drawing his dark energy dagger, he expresses relief that he hadn't missed his opportunity. From the bushes, Kareen thinks back, recalling an Easter egg hidden in the training, Arisha Arden's death. Suddenly, Park Si, who stabs Arisha in the back with the dagger as she tries to protect him. Kareen is horrified by what he just witnessed, anger boiling inside him. It's the same freak after all, he thinks bitterly. Arisha, in shock and disbelief, stares at Park Si, who and asks, "Why did you do this?" She begins to lose consciousness due to the poison, and her vision becomes hazy. Park Si, who, smiling, apologizes and explains that his hand trembled because he was too nervous. The werewolf's eyes glow red as it lets out a loud scream. Injured, Arisha clutches the wound on her arm, staring in shock at the monster before her. The beast starts throwing rapid punches with its paws, and she struggles to block them all. Korin watches and thinks that if Arisha Arden dies here, Park Si, who will claim Odachi, allowing him to join Lunia Arden's elite squad, the legendary swordswoman. Park Si, who observes Arisha battling the monster, noting how the poison is affecting her but not killing her quickly. Is it because she's no ordinary NPC? He wonders. Arisha leaps back several times, putting distance between herself and the werewolf. Gripping her sword tightly in its scabbard, she locks eyes with the creature, despite her exhaustion, and tells herself to stay calm. She closes her eyes to focus on the battle. When she opens them, they glow with energy, her expression filled with determination. She activates her flawless maneuvering skill, emitting a powerful blue aura that shines brightly. The werewolf screams loudly, but Arisha stands her ground, channeling energy into her sword. Park Si, who frowns, realizing that if she continues like this, she'll defeat the monster on her own. With a smile, he prepares to throw his dark energy dagger, saying he can't allow that to happen. He launches the dagger, and Arisha, surprised, notices it and blocks it with her sword, sending it flying away. Turning back to the werewolf, she mutters that last time wasn't a fluke. But when she faces the monster again, she finds its face is already dangerously close. With lightning speed, she swings her sword upward, managing to strike the werewolf and plunge the blade into its head. Both Arisha and the creature collapse to the ground, and it bites her as they fall. Breathing heavily from the battle, both of them bleed out. Park Si, who approaches and takes the sword, while Arisha, tears in her eyes, asks why he did this. Smiling, Park Si, who looks at the sword and declares it a success. He's acquired Odachi. Inspecting it, he remarks that although it requires a certain skill to wield, he'll deal with that later. Remembering something, he turns to Arisha with a wicked grin and says, Oh, I almost forgot. Killing an NPC gives experience too, doesn't it? Arisha, her vision blurred by the poison and the deep bite wound from the werewolf, closes her eyes and begins to cry as she looks at him. Park C, who, smiling cruelly, raises the sword to strike her. But before he can finish, a small pouch of strange powder hits him in the head. The powder scatters in the air around him, and he begins coughing uncontrollably. Startled, he looks at the powder swirling around him. Furious. What the hell is this? He asks angrily. Scanning the surroundings, he shouts, "Who's there? Show yourself now." Suddenly, several small forest monsters emerge from the trees, charging at him. Korin recalls the mushrooms he gathered earlier and realizes that toppin mushrooms are a favorite food of these forest creatures. The reddish pollen from the mushrooms has coated Park C, who, making him look like a piece of freshly marinated meat to the monsters. Now, they only see him as food. Park C, who, infuriated, fights back with Odachi, yelling at the creatures to get lost. As he battles the forest monsters, Korin seizes the opportunity to pull the unconscious Arisha to safety, relieved that she's still alive. His gaze falls on the werewolf's body lying on the ground. Using his dagger, he cuts out one of its fangs. However, he's startled when Park C, whose voice rings out again. Holding his sword at the ready, Park C, who demands to know who he is. Korin, quietly gathering dirt in his hand, boasts about defeating 3 horned rats in a minute. It's cool to wield a sword like Odachi, right? He taunts. Park C, who, taken aback by the familiar voice, finally recognizes him. Korin stands up and turns toward him, a smile spreading across his face as Park C, who calls his name in surprise. How did you get here? Park C, who asks, confused. Korin looks at him and wonders if the freak truly doesn't remember anything. He smirks and thinks, this is perfect. He warns Park C, who that holding the sword like that could cost him an arm. Park C, who glances at the sword in his hand, confused, and asks what he means by that. Korin rushes toward him, grinning slyly, swinging his fist. As he closes the distance, he throws the handful of dirt he had picked up earlier. Caught off guard, Park C, who reacts too late, raising his hand to shield his face and calling Korin a freak. Blindly swinging his sword several times, he misses, screaming that Korin must die. Korin dodges each blow with ease, thinking that despite being an average swordsman, Park C, who is still quick. Not only that, but he's physically stronger than Korin. He advances with the monster's fang, dodging the attacks and realizing there's no option but to give it his all. He seems to throw a punch aimed at Park C-ju's throat, but at the last second, Park C-ju opens his eyes and narrowly avoids the strike. Korin continues his assault, confident that he's doing the right thing. He can almost sense the looming threat of that fang piercing his neck, can't he? He must stay vigilant and focused on his weapons. Park C-ju, doing exactly what Korin had predicted, watches the fang closely, trying to fend off the strikes with his sword. Korin strikes again with the fang, but Park C-ju dodges. Korin thinks he needs to maintain this pace until Park C-ju can focus on nothing but the fang. Korin charges at him, swinging his other arm as he thrusts the fang. Park C-ju, startled by the hidden attack, is overwhelmed with fear. Korin knows that once the fang draws all of his opponent's attention, the surprise will be even greater. Just as he's about to drive the dagger into Park C-ju, Korin smiles. He knocks Park C-ju to the ground and drives the dagger into his shoulder. Blood flows from the wound, and Park C-ju screams in agony. His attention shifts to the injury, tears welling up as he looks on in horror. Korin raises his other hand, still holding the fang, ready to deliver another strike. He moves with lightning speed, and Park C-ju watches in terror. Park C-ju seems to stop the blow by placing his hand under the fang, but his hand trembles under the immense pressure. Korin places both hands on the fang, pushing it down with even more force, while Park C-ju cries out, staring in disbelief. Using all his strength, Korin finally pierces Park Si-ju's throat through his arm with the Fong. He muses that perhaps Park Si-ju should feel grateful for their shared past. As Park Si-ju begins to fade, trembling, Korin acknowledges that he's grown stronger because of him, yet he feels no regret. Afterward, Korin pulls the Fong from Park Si-ju's body and steps back. Kneeling, breathless from exhaustion, he reflects on having just slain a monster in its early stages. Suddenly, the system notifies him of an error. The player is dead. The system calculates the main plot completion percentage, analyzing the player's potential, worldview, compatibility, and files. The previous player's experience is transferred to Korin. Minimum stats and initial save settings are also transferred in case the script fails. A new player has begun their journey. An ALA class knight, successor to a martial artist, and an extra player. Korin looks at the AI system window, wondering if he's now an extra player. Does this mean he finally has a stats window? He turns around, noticing something nearby that catches his eye. Arisha lies on the ground next to him, her breathing labored from severe injuries and poison coursing through her body. Korin picks her up and asks if she's okay. She sobs, saying she's not okay and can't see anything. He points out that at least she can still speak. Leaning in closer, he asks if she feels dizzy and whether she's lost her sense of smell. Does she still hear a ringing in her ears? Arisha closes her eyes and asks how he knew all that. Korin suspects, based on her slurred speech, that she's suffering from peacock frog poison. He notices the Fong lodged in her stomach and recalls how difficult it is to create this poison without using various combinations during training. If Park Si-ju's combination skill had been a little higher, she would have died instantly. While it's a relief, the Fong remains in her body, meaning she's still in danger. Korin removes her belt, thinking of how to stop the bleeding and administer an antidote. He tightens the belt around her injured shoulder, causing her to scream in pain. Korin reassures her, saying she'll be all right. The bleeding stops perfectly, and the poison will be neutralized. Looking around, he realizes she might bite her tongue, so he needs to place something in her mouth to prevent it. He glances at Park Si-ju's severed hand on the ground and, with a grim expression, considers his options. He puts the hand in Arisha's mouth, telling her to bite down hard. Then, he removes his shirt, warning her that it's going to hurt, so she must brace herself and endure it. Korin grabs hold of the Fong embedded in her stomach, reflecting that he doesn't fully understand why he traveled back in time. But now, a player has died by his hand. Pressing his shirt against her back, he pulls the Fong from her stomach in a swift motion, causing Arisha's eyes to widen in pain. Korin sits beside her as she tries to scream but cannot due to the overwhelming agony. Shortly after, she passes out. He wraps her stomach wound with his shirt, thinking that he's saved her. For now, it's enough. Later, Korin starts a fire and prepares something in a pot. Hearing Arisha stir, he tells her that he's making an antidote, and she should wait a little longer. There's no need to worry. People don't die so easily. Lying there with her eyes closed, Arisha calls out to her savior, stammering as she asks for his name. Korin places a cloth over her eyes, replying that she doesn't need to know. Confused, she asks what he means by that. Korin looks at her, instructing her to stop thinking and just rest. He promises to wake her when the antidote is ready. From now on, he decides, as few people as possible should know about his actions. Drawing a circle in the dirt with a stick, he thinks to himself, "Now, it's my turn to clarify the situation." As the name implies, Arhan Heroic Legends is a tale about a hero. If the player resolves all the incidents and accidents at the academy, they become the hero and the world's savior. The player must confront countless villains and eventually face the final boss. The only reason that the peculiar Park Si-ju followed this storyline is because of the final boss, who must be defeated, or else the world will perish. But now the player is dead. So, who will take their place? The system notifies that Korin is now an AOA class knight, the successor of a martial artist, and an additional player. Korin believes he's destined to be the hero. Looking at something with displeasure, he reflects that this situation feels like a nightmare. They could have at least properly transferred the player's duties to him. The system displays several notifications in windows stating that he has no access to the system, the stats window, the inventory, or the combinations window. Korin glances at the messages and comments that, though he's become an extra player, he can't enjoy any of the player's privileges. He was thrilled to see the system, but in the end, nothing really changed. Knowing the future alone makes it extremely challenging to replace the player effectively. He will have to rely on something other than the system. He reminds himself that after training hard for 3 years, he's no longer just an ordinary NPC. Drawing a magic circle on the ground with his finger, a strong flame erupts from the spot. He remains seated, watching the flame rise before it gradually fades. Korin smiles, thinking to himself that it works. He was desperately fighting for survival. In his previous life, though inclined toward magic, he focused solely on one discipline: runes. These are ancient symbols imbued with magical power. Duty, restriction, and oath, also known as the 3 commandment runes, are among the most powerful laws of this world, granting superhuman strength but also leading to destruction. He decides to engrave all 3 runes on his body. Biting his finger to draw blood, he starts inscribing the runes onto his other hand with his own blood. The blood forms runes that burn on his skin, but he endures the pain, deciding the first rune will represent duty. By voluntarily making an oath, the caster gains additional power from this commandment. He could promise something simple like not eating chicken, but that would be too easy. The increase in stats would be minimal. Therefore, he must make a more demanding vow, one he can follow through with. He vows never to ignore the suffering of good people. The system notifies him that he has made this vow, and his stats will increase with each completed quest. However, failure will incur a 10-fold penalty. Korin bites his other finger, deciding that the second rune will represent restriction. As he inscribes this rune, he experiences immense pain. The system notifies him that the restriction is in place. He cannot perceive spirits. Korin knows that everyone in this world has spiritual perception, and there are incorporeal beings like ghosts and elementals. These entities can only interact with those who are aware of them, meaning they can't harm those who are unconscious or lack spiritual perception. The system warns that failure to follow this restriction will increase enemy damage by 600%. The restriction is now activated, setting damage from spiritual entities to 0%, while damage to material targets increases by 50%. With his spiritual perception now at 0, Korin feels fully protected from these creatures. The last rune is Oath. This commandment carries significant risk as it uses the weight of promises as a source of power. This is why neither he nor Park Si-ju used it in their previous lives. However, even Park Si-ju, who utilized everything the system had to offer, ultimately lost. So, Korin sees no reason to hesitate. He declares that he will take the heaviest vow, to save the world. He believes this is the vow of a warrior with grand ambitions. The commandments are complete. The system confirms that the duty has been sworn, and the commandments are applied to the additional player. Failure to comply will result in certain death. Sometime later, Arisha opens her eyes after a long sleep. To her surprise, she finds herself in a bed somewhere expensive. She tries to sit up but feels pain from the many injuries she recently sustained. A nurse standing nearby is startled to see her awake and asks how she's feeling. Arisha turns to her and asks where she is. The nurse replies that she's in the emergency hospital in the city of Merkaba. Arisha asks about the person who brought her there. Apologetically, the nurse explains that he just left. Surprised, Arisha asks if he left recently. The nurse, embarrassed, says that Arisha shouldn't move yet. But Arisha insists she's fine and asks where her belongings are. She notices a bag on top of a locker and asks if it belongs to her rescuer. She looks at the belt he used to wrap her shoulder, seeing the dried blood still on it. She turns away and calls for the nurse. The nurse, alarmed, asks what she needs. Arisha asks if there's a place nearby where she can buy honey-filled candies. The nurse, confused by the request, replies that she shouldn't be moving at all right now. 3 days after finishing the training quest, on the day of the Merkaba Academy entrance ceremony, Kareem checks his wallet and mentions that he needs a student ID to enter. He spots an unusual letter and inquires about it. Holding it, he notes he doesn't recall placing it there. As he opens the letter and reads, he learns that his father is immensely proud of him. Like the great defenders, he must become a remarkable person who safeguards many others. Kareem wonders when this letter was left for him. He believes he was merely an ordinary, talentless child, but even he has a family. Since taking on this body, he has acted awkwardly and unusually, yet he has still been treated as a family member. This is how he started to love his new family. This distinguishes him from Park Si-hoo. A while later, at the train station, many young people are looking around in different directions, and one of them asks in astonishment if there are really so many trains here. So this is the Merkaba Academy. A girl with blue hair waves to the newcomers and greets them. She asks them to gather. Spotting Kareem, she asks if he's new as well. He confirms and introduces himself. The girl seems surprised and comments on his height, saying he probably eats a lot. She hands him a potato and kindly asks if he would like to eat. After a short time, as one of the trains departs, the girl points out the window and mentions that this area is called the Science Hall, where student magicians conduct their research. Her name is Maria Dunerf. She is a first-class mage and a second-year student at the academy. A girl who walks confidently down a smooth path. She blesses everyone around her. However, life continues normally, and people in this world still face many hardships and tragedies. In the future, she too will experience profound despair. She is the final boss of the first arc. Soon, as the students prepare to disembark the train, Maria tells them that each of them should take one regular and one sweet potato. As the train moves away, she waves to the students, wishes them good luck, and assures them they will meet again. The students arrive at the Freedom Hall of the Merkaba Academy. Kareem notices the magic circle and thinks it's a space expansion spell. Suddenly, the entire Hall of Freedom is engulfed in darkness, alarming the students, and one asks what's happening. Can anyone see anything? Suddenly, all the students except Kareem flee, and someone tells the others not to panic. He hadn't realized that only the students entering the academy were confused by this. Kareem looks around, recognizing the voice of Old Man Harmon. It's still the same as before. It feels like they're in a training camp. The history of humanity in this world revolves around an ongoing battle against demons. The most effective weapons against these demons are superhumans who wield aura and mana. Merkaba Academy trains such individuals. A man approaches, yawning as he greets everyone present. He introduces himself as Professor Permac Damon, the faculty head responsible for this year's freshman welcome ceremony. Kareem smiles, thinking he hasn't seen him in quite some time. Permac Damon states they are all here to become knights and mages and that they will likely receive their licenses. However, he dislikes seeing weaklings among them parading with their heads held high. Therefore, he wants to assess their abilities. A system window appears in front of all the students, capturing their attention. The Quarren system window displays Kareem's name along with his aura level of 680 points, categorized as low, a mana level of 120 points, also very low, ability 0, marked as very low, and an overall score of 6th rank, labeled very low. Kareem frowns at this and thinks his performance is utterly dismal. Permac Damon explains that what they see before them is their overall evaluation, and they need to measure up to a number that corresponds to their rank. Standing before the sign indicating his rank, Quarren thinks there are about 400 individuals total, realizing he's among the worst. Permac Damon grins slyly, wishing them good luck in the battle. Suddenly, all those placed in the lowest 4 ranks begin to be transported to an unknown location. Someone observes a few students encased in a bubble of energy, commenting on the many talented freshmen this year. A girl with a large hat and glasses states there's no point in evaluating the 1st and 2nd ranks yet. They should wait for the other participants' tests to conclude. In the 2nd rank are the Sword Emperor's granddaughter, Arisha Arden, the Druid of Avalorn, Yule, a sword-wielding mercenary named Doran Varsky, a golem-making wizard, Kranal Laden, and the sole 1st-rank student, a heavenly yaksha named H. Warren. The girl with glasses remarks that she never expected such a freshman to enroll. A man nearby questions the purpose of assessing the 6th rank when even the 5th rank seems subpar. They could simply eliminate the mediocrities among the 6th rank. The girl, clearly upset, retorts that the chairman desires all students to pursue the path of learning. Does he have any objections? The man feels very embarrassed by her response. He snaps his fingers and announces that they can begin. In an unfamiliar space, a large cabinet with a drawn sword lands in front of Kareem. He notices it and remarks that he has received a case with a gun. Someone states that monsters will emerge in 30 seconds, and they should do their best to handle this situation. Kareem glances around, thinking that during this test, participants are sent to avoid and compelled to battle monsters. He observes that the creatures show no signs of friendliness, as is usually the case. He opens the weapon case while someone counts down the time until the monsters appear. Kareem speculates that most 5th and 6th rank students will grab the first weapon they encounter, likely a sword, which he also chose in his previous life. Several dog-like monsters start to materialize in the area. The system announces that a shorthound is a level 5 monster. Kareem picks up his weapon and mentions that while swords are impressive, the Norse say it takes 100 days to master a spear, 1,000 days for a blade, and 10,000 days for a sword. He swings his weapon, thinking that's why he chose the spear. He throws spears at the charging monsters with tremendous force. One spear strikes the head of a monster, causing it to vanish, which surprises the others. Kareem raises his hand and apologizes to the remaining monsters. The last 2 hounds rush toward him but are taken aback when they notice something unusual. He throws another spear, which returns to him, and hits one of the startled monsters. Kareem defeats the last 2 and claims that he has dispatched monsters like them many times before. He smiles as he watches the vanishing creatures.
Does he need to fight the hounds again? The man continues walking through the space, observing how the students have fared in the test, scoffing that they're all hopeless idiots. Meanwhile, he doesn't notice Corin swiftly dispatching several monsters that have appeared. Then he notices one of the students and asks if perhaps someone has actually completed the test. Amazed, he notes that it only took 7 minutes and 20 seconds. Turning around, he comments that it looks like the 3rd-ranked student might complete it in just 2 or 3 minutes. He then wonders what his other students are doing. He spots Corin sitting on the ground, yawning, and is puzzled. He asks aloud what is wrong with this idiot and wonders why he's just sitting there. Could there be a malfunction with the monster summoning system? Another instructor approaches him, asking if something broke. The man insists this can't be, as Josephine's magic has never failed in 20 years. He points to Corin, saying the student who should have already been knocked out is just sitting there. Clearly something is wrong with the summoning spell. The other instructor, confused, asks if he saw that nothing appeared. The man says no, but wonders if that's necessary, prompting the other instructor to note that he didn't actually see what happened. Corin notices 3 more hounds and, annoyed, wonders why the same monsters keep appearing. He hurls 3 spears at once, taking down the monsters with a single throw. The system records that he completed the task in 7 seconds, shocking 2 instructors observing. One of them asks in surprise, "What was that?" He turns and tells his colleague to look at this. Permac Damon approaches and asks what's going on. He inquires about the fastest time their students have completed the test. The other responds that a student named Jaeger did it in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Curious, Permac speculates that this skilled student might be a hunter's son. He summons a 4th-rank monster, the Frosted Boar, to challenge Corin. To their astonishment, Corin defeats it in 4 seconds, prompting the instructor to summon a more challenging 3rd-rank monster, the Owlbear. Corin dodges the Owlbear's attack, maneuvering under it and striking it hard with his spear. Although the strike initially seems ineffective, he skillfully dodges the monster's counterattack. Concentrating, Corin summons a powerful flame beneath the monster, using a technique known as the Kenny-Z skill. This shocks the instructor, who exclaims, "Was that rune magic?" Drawing attention from other instructors, Permac Damon asks if he just heard runes. Corin watches the flaming owlbear continue to thrash, unimpressed. Sprinting forward, he leaps high and spins his spear, delivering a powerful strike to the monster's head, saying that blocking its vision was enough to defeat it. Observing this, one instructor marvels at Corin's unusual skills and regrets that only 3rd-rank monsters are part of the test, as it's been ages since he's seen such an impressive student. He anticipates Corin's potential battle with a demonic spirit. Nervously, another instructor announces they'll summon a rank 5 demonic spirit. Corin, looking around, senses something different. Yet, he sees nothing thanks to a restriction preventing him from detecting spirits, which also blocks communication with him. After counting a minute in his mind, he smiles, confirming his suspicions that everything is working as he thought. Satisfied, he raises his spear and declares that he's forfeiting the test. The system disqualifies him from the test with demonic spirits but notes that he set new records against the undersized 5th rank hounds, the 4th rank frosted boar and the 3rd rank owlbear. Korin appears among the instructors who are stunned and tells them they did a decent job. One instructor is shocked, thinking, did he really forfeit, and wonders who Korin really is. Later, Korin joins the crowd of students who completed the test. One student asks his friend about his rank. The friend replies that he got a 4th rank and is in trouble because of it. The first student chuckles, saying he got a 3rd rank. The second guy is shocked and asks if Jaeger really defeated both the owlbear and the banshee. Standing in the crowd of students, Jaeger Hinspeter is grinning smugly. Korin notices him and recalls that Jaeger had started a fight with a player early on, only to be killed by Park Seho, who grew annoyed with him. While Jaeger might be an arrogant fool at his age, it's somewhat understandable, though his attitude is due in part to that crazy Park Seho. One student remarks to another, pointing toward the 5th rank students, saying they must have had a hard time intentionally losing. It seems some students couldn't even beat basic hounds or ghosts. Korin notices Lark among the 5th rank students and remembers how, in his previous life, Lark's inferiority complex drove him to slander both him and Park Seho, ultimately meeting the same fate as Jaeger. At that moment, a man steps up to a microphone, clears his throat and wishes everyone a good morning. Introducing himself as Aryu Kasser, the academy chairman, he encourages the students, saying they joined the academy to grow stronger. Some have already achieved that, while others still have a long road ahead. Though he can't promise they'll achieve all their dreams here, he hopes they'll find their path and take the right first step, as the second step will be up to them alone. He gives a warm smile, wishes them a good day and steps away. The students disperse and Jaeger, walking through the corridor, loudly announces that he's now a 3rd ranked knight. He approaches Lark, who's sitting against a wall reading, and calls his name loudly. Lark looks up in alarm, asking what Jaeger wants. Jaeger inquires about Lark's rank, and when Lark hesitantly admits he's rank 5, Jaeger mocks him, asking if he couldn't even defeat a ghost or a shorthound. Korin approaches with a friendly smile, placing an arm around them, and Jaeger turns to ask who he is. Korin points to Jaeger's tattoo, admiring it and noting it must have been made by a skilled artist. He says it even includes his blood type, likely to ensure a quick transfusion in case of injury, a thoughtful preparation. Pleased, Jaeger reveals that his mom did the tattoo. Originally, she worked in frameworks, but she created this piece at his request. Korin praises the tattoo and inquires if Jaeger has any others. Korin recalls from his past life that when Jaeger disappeared, his mother came to the academy and explained that these tattoos weren't for show but were done out of concern for her son. With pride, Jaeger shows the tattoos on his arm, which include the symbol of Merkaba Academy. Korin, feigning admiration, introduces himself and asks for their names. Jaeger happily introduces himself as Jaeger Hinspeter, while a flustered Lark also gives his name. As they continue chatting, Arisha watches from a distance, impressed that Korin naturally helped someone who was being picked on. Smiling, she thinks he seems like a good person, and Korin muses that he's left a positive impression on Lark. He grins mischievously, thinking he's just secured access to a free skill book. Arisha notices his grin and thinks it's charming, wondering what kind of person he really is. Korin reflects on Merkaba Academy's facilities, noting that they're mostly free, with cheap cafeteria food and optional dorm fees. However, the training hall is particularly recommended by students. Korin trains there, motivated by its unique opportunities, like practicing with spirits he can't see. Nearby, some students notice him sparring with a spiritual entity, a type of training usually reserved for the second semester. One student speculates that Korin must have come because of rumors about sophomores struggling with even basic wind-type spirits. Suddenly, a spirit strikes Korin on the forehead, and he, breathing heavily after the encounter, wonders if this training is still too advanced for him. An instructor approaches, noting that Korin is a freshman. Korin greets him, and the instructor curiously asks why he's taking on this rigorous training. Korin replies that he wants to improve his spear skills. The instructor, intrigued, asks if Korin is confident he can handle it. Korin, glancing away nonchalantly, affirms that he can, though he wonders why the instructor is so interested. Could there be a lingering issue from his entrance test? The instructor narrows his eyes, deep in thought as he studies Korin. He smiles widely, hands Korin something and says he's in a great mood, giving him 10 food stamps. As he walks away, he tells Korin to come find him if he wants praise for his efforts. Korin is both surprised and happy, asking with a shaky voice if he heard right. He exhales in relief, thinking he was nervous for nothing. It seems this man shows favor through food. That's a good sign, right? Determined, he tells himself it's time to start again from scratch. Maria watches him with interest, staring silently for a moment. Soon after, Korin resumes his fight against the spirit, exchanging numerous strikes. The monster quickly closes in and lands a heavy blow, throwing Korin back so hard that he hits the floor. Lying there, panting, he looks up. Suddenly, a handkerchief falls over his face, closing his eyes, and Maria stands nearby with an empty glass, asking if it's tough for him. Korin agrees, saying it's exhausting. Using magic, Maria fills the glass with water and hands it to him, saying he's worked hard and needs to get used to it. One day, everything will come together, he should try again next time. Korin reaches for the glass, thinking he doesn't really have a next time. Maybe he did 3 years ago with Park Seho. Back then they had stat windows, potions and skill books at their disposal. But that's all gone now. After killing Park Seho, he's on his own. He hands the glass back to Maria, thanking her but mentioning he could give up anytime. Standing up, he picks up his spear, smiling as he thinks about his goal to become the strongest. As he fights the spirit again, he knows the first step is to test his limits, figuring out what abilities from his past he can still use. He works through his skills: Sinister Snake Strike, Wind Swing, Blocking Counter-Attack, Reverse Rotation of the Heavens and Mountain Throw. Breathing heavily, Korin realizes he doesn't have a strong body, powerful magic, or aura. Knowing the future is useless when fighting monsters and geniuses. Gripping his spear tightly, he resolves to work harder than anyone else. That's his only advantage, and those 3 years of experience won't fail him. Taking a stance, he uses the Disaster Serpent skill, charging at the spirit and throwing his spear. The monster dodges and Maria thinks he's given up. But then, Korin catches his own spear from behind the spirit, surprising Maria. Realizing her mistake, Maria watches as Korin lands his Serpent of Calamity skill, Slithering Serpent, on the monster's back, causing it to disappear in a burst of energy that ripples through the training hall. Maria stares in amazement, thinking that strong and outstanding don't fully capture his talent. She's already found the right word: amazing. Korin, exhausted from the fight, collapses on the floor. Concerned, Maria rushes over, calling out to him. Lying there, Korin thinks he may have overdone it with this body. The next day, Maria greets the new students with a smile, saying she'll introduce them to the academy's facilities. As they tour, Korin eats bread, thinking his top priority is strengthening his body for battle, without relying on elixirs. Only one method can help him: the commandments. Lost in thought, he glances over at Lark, remembering his promise to help good people in need. Korin surprises Lark with a friendly hug, calling him friend and inviting him to eat together. Softly, he adds that he'd like to talk more about grimoires. Korin explains that grimoires are skill books. Reading one allows you to gain new skills or traits. The Merkaba Academy Library, known for its vastness, also serves as a repository for grimoires, hidden under the guise of ordinary books. Turning to Lark, Korin notes that if you want to hide a tree, you do it in a forest, right? Lark, understanding the hint, nods and assures Korin he'll keep his promise. Korin smiles at Lark and reassures him not to worry. If he meets the conditions, he'll receive a grimoire with unique characteristics. Korin thinks of Lark as diligent, intellectual, and a model student, someone who carefully records spells in his book. But it's not just about the quantity of spells. A low-level mage with limited mana won't see great results, even with strong spells. A grimoire, though, is an entirely different story. Korin sorts through the books methodically, resetting some as he goes. Lark starts to tell him to stop wasting time but pauses, noticing something incredible. Korin has opened a hidden panel in the wall and looks at it, surprised by his own discovery. Lark is astonished and asks if it's a secret door. How did he find it? Korin, excited, hurries inside, prompting a confused Lark to follow. They walk down a dim corridor which Lark admits feels eerie. Korin stops, turns to Lark and says it's time to keep his promise. They need to give it their all. Lark shakes his hand and agrees, assuming Korin needs help with spirits. But before he can finish his sentence, Korin suddenly punches him, leaving Lark unconscious. Korin laughs darkly and says they can begin. Kneeling beside Lark, he reflects that he came here first to help, but he also has a special quest to complete. If he can capture a spirit here, he'll obtain a hidden fragment. But there's a slight complication. Behind him stands a large figure, Savanshaduk, a powerful demonic spirit. Korin assesses the situation, realizing this quest may be impossible. He wonders aloud how he'll manage to capture such a unique spirit. Savanshaduk creates multiple magical orbs, controlling them with his hand. Rising to face the attack, Korin thinks back on Duke's history as a warlord who ruled the South 800 years ago. Most challengers would likely be defeated at the quest's outset, but Korin's dodges make him an exception. Savanshaduk launches several energy streams at him, but Korin's not affected. The system reveals that spirits don't perceive him. Savanshaduk, confused by his missed attacks, hears Korin call his name, which catches him off guard. Corin apologizes, saying he can't see him but asks if Duke could possess Lark's body. As he says this, he picks up the unconscious Lark. In this world, certain factors can transform people into creatures like demons, vampires, or werewolves. Duke himself once awakened as a vampire and lost control, killing his servant. Fearing for his family's safety, he eventually sealed himself within a grimoire to prevent harming them. When Duke enters Lark's body, it emits an intense energy, and he charges angrily toward Corin, who calmly deduces that Duke's vampire instincts have awakened. Corin grins, revealing that he brought Lark for a different reason. When a spirit possesses someone, they can unlock their physical potential, and Lark, a model student, has untapped strength. As Duke launches a powerful punch, Corin dodges and plants his foot on him, admitting he feels a bit sorry for Lark but that it's necessary to complete the quest. Killing Lark now would yield high-ranking items like a vampire cloak and armor, which proved crucial in future events. Corin grins, aware he's not like Park Seo, who would take this path without hesitation. Corin begins to tell Duke about his family, his wife, Luina Duke, and his daughter, Cicely Duke, and shares stories about their lives after he sealed himself away. He recounts how Luina passed away and how Cicely became a great adventurer. Corin is driven by a strong connection to family, unlike Park Seo, who never cared about relationships in this world. Moved, Savantia Duke looks at Corin, tears in his eyes as Corin reflects on wanting to give this troubled soul a dignified end. Duke wipes his tears, apologizes for his attacks, and thanks Corin for sharing his family's story. Corin smiles, assuring him there's no harm done. Duke has one last request, and they speak at length before he finally departs. The system notifies Corin that he's received a legendary item, the soul dust of the unique demonic spirit, Savantia Duke, the Grimoire. This is the book in which Savantia Duke's soul was sealed. It holds spells and abilities the reader can acquire. Corin gains a new skill, Regenerating Stalwart Warrior, which lets his body restore itself, embodying a fighter who has never lost his spirit. Corin is confused about receiving this skill, thinking it must have come from that strange Park Seo, who never even realized its power because he never got injured. Lark sits up, clutching his head in pain. Corin asks if he's awake and advises him to stay calm. He was under the spirit's control the whole time. Lark jokes about his jaw hurting and Corin, embarrassed, says he has no idea why that might be. He hands Lark the grimoire, saying it's best if he just takes it quietly. Lark, stunned, confirms that it's really a grimoire and asks if Corin is sure he can have it. Corin recalls that part of his reason for choosing Lark was to see a hardworking person rewarded. The system notifies him that the quest, Debt to Savantia Duke, difficulty B, has been completed, rewarding him with 80 points, split evenly with no further details. Surprised, Corin calculates that it would normally take leveling up 16 times to earn 80 stat points. Since he received this from one quest, he wonders if the lack of custom point distribution is worth it. The system clarifies that he received 40 points for not ignoring Lark's misfortune and another 40 for aiding Savantia Duke. Later, in the training hall, Maria asks if anyone wants some potatoes. Students eagerly catch them and she steps away, asking Corin if he'll train with spirits again. He nods and she smiles, offering encouragement. Nearby students grumble, wondering how this low-ranked freshman could handle spirit training when he failed yesterday. Maria hears them and playfully offers 2 gold coins, betting on Corin's success. Shocked, they counter with 70 silver coins that he'll fail. Embarrassed, Corin asks why he's suddenly the subject of bets. He only came to practice. He picks up his spear, focusing. With the spirit quest points, he's curious to see how much stronger he's become. Testing his strength, he uses the Sinister Snake Strike skill, choosing it over the more advanced Slithering Snake he previously used. To his amazement, he destroys the spirit with a single throw, surprising everyone, including himself. The students marvel at how he managed with just one blow. Maria approaches and remarks that yesterday he needed 3 attacks but only 1 today. Corin realizes she must have been watching him closely and wonders how she tracked his movements so well. Maria hands him a bag of coins, saying he earned her some money, so she's splitting the winnings. Corin, surprised, asks if she really wants to share. Maria brushes it off, questioning if he doesn't like it. Grinning, Corin accepts, thinking he'll gladly take the reward. Later, as he eats bread, Corin reflects on his past life, where he trained relentlessly yet struggled to reach the 5th of 6 steps to enlightenment. Though he still has far to go, he's advancing faster with the spear than he expected, which gives him a sense of optimism. The challenge Corin faces is with rune magic. He tried using the Hagala rune, but the system warned him that he lacked sufficient mana. As he eats bread, he reflects on how he couldn't manage rune magic in his previous life because of the high mana requirements. Solving this issue would make him far stronger than before. Lost in thought, He hears someone calling his name and realizes it's a voice he knows well. No matter how much he trains, he thinks, there's already someone at this academy he cannot surpass. He turns to see H. Waring, a formidable heroine that even Park Se-ho, one of the strongest in Arhin's heroic legends, couldn't handle. Known as the balance breaker, H. Waring is a force to be reckoned with, a true bomb that cannot be defused. Korin tries to leave without engaging her, but she calls out, mentioning something about being united. Confused, he wonders if she can see through him, that he's not the original owner of his body. As a Jiangqi, an animated corpse with a human and demonic soul, she can supposedly perceive the color of other souls. H. Waring asks him what it feels like to destroy and consume the original soul. Korin, caught off guard, denies knowing anything about that. He wonders if he and the original Korin are truly different people. The memories feel his own, yet he questions if he's still the same person who once studied at the Faculty of Kinesiology or served in the military back on Earth. H. Waring, however, sees him as just a thief who stole this body. He replies with a joke about a man named Bruce who turns into a green giant when angry, trying to lighten the tension. Korin explains that both souls now live together and birth itself is not a sin. H. Waring is quiet for a moment before replying that some people's births are indeed seen as a sin. Korin, understanding the hardship she has faced since childhood, leaves saying they'll meet again. She doesn't respond, remaining seated under the tree. The next day, Korin heads to the southern part of the academy well before dawn. His goal is to check the task board, a place with quests that can help students level up before the next main mission. However, he's not interested in leveling up right now, he just wanted to see what was there. As he arrives, he spots Irisha Arden at the board, surprised to see her so early. Remembering Park Se-ho's dealings with her in his past life, he realizes he doesn't know much about her. He greets her and she immediately bows. Korin asks if she's taking a task already, noting that, being ranked second, she doesn't seem desperate for results. Irisha explains she needs money, which surprises Korin. Doesn't the academy provide funds for top students? She tearfully explains that her parents are wealthy, so she receives no financial support, similar to the scholarship system in Korea. Her family believes she should learn self-sufficiency, so no matter how much she asks, they won't help her financially. Realizing her difficult situation, Korin suggests she look at the patrol task on the board, a reliable option for quick money. Relieved, Irisha asks if he would join her on the patrol, but Korin declines, saying he has other plans for his weekend. He chooses a different task for himself, locating a 2-year-old cat named Butterfly. The description for the task Korin took mentions that the cat is cute but disobedient, with a reward of 5,000. Later, after accepting the assignment from a woman and her daughter, Korin sets out to find the cat. Though this task offers little experience and money, his real goal is to fulfill a commandment. By saving the cat from water monsters, he hopes to spare the girl the grief of losing her pet. He eventually finds the cat, Butterfly, and returns it to the girl, who is so overwhelmed with joy she begins to cry. The system confirms he has completed the task, noting that he didn't ignore Anna Macmillan's hardship. The quest, rated E in difficulty, rewards him with 5 equally distributed points. Korin is thrilled to see the commandment is working, realizing he can gain benefits even from simple tasks. However, Anna, feeling uneasy, runs off with her cat, telling her mother he's a bit strange. Later, as he's running through the city thinking about points, Korin notices 3 men about to assault someone. Still focused on the points he's accumulated, he rushes around rooftops, lost in thought. Suddenly, he recalls something more important, something he even wrote down to remember. In a nearby restaurant, an elderly chef is angrily complaining that his sauce isn't turning out right, despite using over 10 ingredients. Frustrated, he bangs the table, lamenting that his sauce lacks the right flavor to make his dish irresistible, even when it cools. Hearing the commotion, Korin offers a suggestion, adding corn syrup. With a mischievous grin, he leaves, bidding the old man farewell. Though skeptical, the chef decides to try it, and to his surprise, the sauce tastes incredible. He exclaims that this is exactly what he needed, unknowingly fulfilling a small commandment. The system alerts Korin that he's met Yen Kyojo's need, earning another 5 points. Delighted, Korin wonders if even such simple desires can activate commandments. Meanwhile, as he stands proudly in the street, H. Waring watches from a nearby rooftop, her face expressionless. She quietly observes, thinking he's strange. Just then, Josephine appears through a portal, scolding H. Waring for leaving without permission. H. Waring remains silent, staring off into the distance. She recalls Korin's earlier words about birth not being a sin, contrasting it with someone else's belief that she shouldn't have been born. She gazes over the sunlit city for a while. Later, at the Academy's hunting grounds, Josephine gathers the students and explains their task: to demonstrate survival skills by reaching a cabin in the forest's northern area, where they'll earn points based on time. Each student wears an armband representing their rank, which they can reclaim at the cabin. Corin scans the crowd, noting H-Waring's absence, which he suspects is due to the Academy's efforts to maintain balance. Irisha approaches him and thanks him for suggesting a task that helped her earn money. Corin is glad he could help and offers her a honey bomb candy he bought for his little sister, which he can't eat himself. Irisha, delighted by the rare treat, eagerly accepts. Josephine, meanwhile, casts an enormous magic circle above the students, unleashing streams of dark energy and impressing everyone. Corin watches in awe, recognizing the Great Witch's unique spatial magic ability. The test begins and Corin finds himself somewhere in the forest. Suddenly, he hears someone yelling nearby and is surprised to see students already fighting each other. He thinks to himself that even skilled students need multiple tries to complete the test in the hunting grounds. This is the so-called Battle Royale, where each player starts in a random spot and can collect points by taking others' armbands. Corin runs past a group of competitors, thinking they can enjoy their fight without him. He smirks, knowing the biggest threat is Arisha with her second-rank blue armband. Using his energy flow to track her, he realizes that without Waran around, taking Arisha down will make the rest of the competitors easy targets. Unbeknownst to her, he'd marked the candy he gave her with a tracking rune. Meanwhile, Josephine decides to head into the forest, telling the chairman that extra caution never hurts. She's surprised to notice someone missing, but Ariu Kasser confirms he didn't send anyone, suggesting that something might have changed in that person's heart. Elsewhere, Waran chases Corin through the forest, expressionless. In another part of the woods, a tired Arisha fends off several students and asks why they're ganging up on her, insisting it's unfair. One opponent yells that it's her abilities that are unfair, just as he attempts to strike her from behind. He's stopped by a rock thrown by none other than Corin. Arisha is surprised and touched, seeing this as confirmation that he's a good person. But Corin only smirks and says he's after her armband. Arisha, heartbroken, says she believed in his kindness after he shared candy with her. Corin, knowing she's a second-rank knight with limited abilities, commands her to give him the armband. He observes that while she's not as skilled as her brilliant sister, she's still capable. After all, she had easily bested multiple third and fourth-rank students just moments before. Arisha deflects one of his powerful blows and realizes his strength, noticing that his attacks are both relentless and strategic. Seeing slight gaps in his assault, she quickly lunges, only for Corin to block with his spear. He chides her for relying too much on talent at the expense of practice. As they continue to clash, Corin executes fundamental techniques: Ran for dodging, On for pressing down, and Zhao for direct hits. His movements form the simplest yet most effective counterstrike, with a mastery of spear technique that shocks Arisha. After a powerful strike, Arisha is thrown several meters back, her sword knocked from her grip. She realizes that without her aura to shield her, she'd have been seriously hurt. Puzzled by his skill, she questions if Corin is really just a fifth-rank knight. Corin takes her armband with a smile, confident in his victory. Suddenly, a loud noise interrupts him as someone calls out, declaring it unfair. Startled, Corin turns to see another student wielding a massive two-handed sword, which he barely blocks with his spear. He notes the blade is made of a dense, iron-like material. The newcomer, Doran Varsky, retrieves his weapon and challenges Corin, demanding he drop the armband and leave. Corin scowls as he looks at his new opponent, thinking this was exactly the last person he wanted to run into. Seeing the bodies of defeated students and monsters behind him, he notices that even after so many fights, the guy before him looks untouched. The contrast between him and Iresh is stark. Realizing the situation, Corin mutters to himself that he has no choice but to run. Retreating into the forest, he figures fighting now would be a poor decision. Doran stares after him, somewhat surprised, then dashes off in pursuit, wielding several swords at once. As he chases, Corin grumbles about the persistence of this idiot and wonders why he's being followed so stubbornly. Running alongside him, Irisha comments that she has no interest in dying and has no idea where the exit is. Soon, they arrive at a hut where Kranol Ladin, with a large golem beside him, blocks the entrance and smugly tells Corin he'll need to hand over his armband to get past. Frustrated, Corin realizes he's trapped between Kranol at the front and Doran at the back. Sighing, he thinks there's no way to avoid a fight with these two. Irisha is taken aback, wondering if he's really going to take both on at once. Corin steels himself, muttering that if he can't avoid the fight, he might as well dive in. Later, inside the hut, the professor at the desk hears a knock. Corinne walks in with 3 blue armbands, announcing his name and asking for his prize. The professor is astonished by the 3 armbands, remarking on Corinne's skill. Laughing, Corinne humbly says he was simply lucky. Moments before, Ericia had watched Corinne's incredible display as he defeated Cranel and Doran. She recalls how he pierced the magic sword's core before it could fully power up, then drove it into the ground, making it unreachable by telekinesis. His agility allowed him to dodge what he couldn't block, directing attacks toward the golems instead. Moving swiftly behind Doran, he used him as a shield against the golems, ultimately neutralizing them by striking their power crystals. Within seconds, Corinne had dismantled his opponents, showing mastery in spear skills, battlefield experience and psychological tactics, skills that reminded Ericia of her sister. She recalls Corinne's comment about the limitations of relying only on talent, and inspired, decides to push herself further. Doran meanwhile stares at his sword, frustrated at being outmaneuvered before he could unleash his full strength. Cranel lies silently, nursing an injured arm as Corinne approaches and critiques his use of golems, suggesting he find a friend as backup. When Cranel sadly replies that he has no friends, Corinne is confused but leaves, wishing him luck. Cranel begins to cry, considering himself an outcast. For all 3 students, this day becomes unforgettable. With 3 armbands in his possession, Corinne hums contentedly and notes that there's only one strong contender left. Yule, a druid protected by the forest. However, other threats loom in the hunting grounds, like the great mage Maria Dunnerf of Merkaba Academy. Just then, Maria lowers a massive sphere of water to the ground with a loud thud, having joined the exercise as one of the monsters for the students to practice against. Yule, caught off guard by such a formidable opponent, seems destined to lose. As Maria descends to the ground, she kindly introduces herself to Yule, who, still reeling, responds shyly. Maria begins to say something but pauses, noticing Waran standing behind her. Turning to her, she asks if she's looking for someone. All the opponents she defeated looked alike, but Waran simply ran past her without acknowledging her. Her path was abruptly blocked by a massive ice crystal conjured up by magic, courtesy of Maria, who smiled and apologized. She reminded Waran that according to the trial rules she was currently the monster, so ignoring her wasn't an option. Annoyed, Waran activated her aura and faced Maria head-on. Meanwhile, inside the hut, the professor announced Corinne's score of 117 points, remarking that it had been a long time since anyone achieved such a result. Corinne eagerly asked if he could choose his prize. He was offered a selection: a frosted boar's fang dagger, a protective leather cloak and shark bear bile. Though he recognized the shark bear bile's value, he instead opted for a mandrake seed. The professor, surprised by this choice, praised it and then asked what he wanted with his remaining 17 points. After a moment's thought, Corinne chose plant nutrient cards and earplugs, totaling 16 points, and asked for these items. Outside the hut, Corinne happily noted how well his choices had panned out. This was the first time he'd managed so perfectly. He hadn't even seen some of the others pass the test before. Jaeger then came down the trail with a pleased expression, announcing his second-place finish and 19 extra points, while Lark reported his own 15 points. Corinne congratulated them both, and Jaeger suggested they hit the gym later. Corinne, however, urged him to help locate the golem's core instead. Cranel, overhearing, was surprised, and Corinne added that they should help him in his search. Though Cranel initially turned away, Corinne reminded him it was a time to say thank you. He reflected on his past life, noting that golem tanks were invaluable in battles with semi-large monsters. The trial then drew to a close. Cranel Leden, a second-rank mage, restored the golem's core. Arisha Arden, a second-rank knight, was injured, and Doran Varsky, another second-rank knight, had lost his combat abilities. Meanwhile, Corinne found the second-rank druid Yule lying on the ground and wondered if she was dead. Helping her up, he pondered where the professors were. Was mere survival their only concern? He heard loud noises nearby and saw animals fleeing. Yule weakly warned him about Maria, urging him to run, but Corinne, curious, questioned her distress. He noted that Maria, with her powerful magical talents, was set to succeed Professor Jose Fai. On the hunting grounds, Maria directed the trial's difficulty like a game to help her juniors improve. Exhausted from the ongoing battle, she prepared to analyze her options when Waran leapt high toward her, ready to strike. Maria raised her hand and launched ice crystals, but Waran, unfazed, broke through them. Maria quickly conjured larger ice crystals, acknowledging that simple magic wouldn't be enough. Corinne suspected that although Maria had promised not to use high-level attack magic, she'd already employed advanced spells and was nearly depleted of energy. Waran shattered Maria's ice wall, delivering a powerful kick to her stomach, which sent Maria flying into a large tree before she collapsed on the ground. Waring approached slowly as Maria, visibly shaken, raised a trembling hand begging her to stop. In her eyes, this wasn't a battle between a knight and a mage anymore. Waring was a force of nature. Panicking, Maria tried to summon magic but could barely control her hands. She shouted for Waring to stay away, but just then Josephine intervened, ordering Waring to stop and stepping between them. Maria, relieved by her appearance, tried to reassure her but quickly lost consciousness. After the trial concluded, several unexpected outcomes emerged. Corinne Locke, the 5th-ranked knight, had scored the highest and was the first to pass. Secondly, there was a confrontation between the exceptional first-year student H. Waring and the strongest second-year student, Maria, which intimidated him. He initially thought that Maria had awakened the boss, but it seemed everything was under control, meaning the plot would remain true to the original. He would contemplate this later since he still had about 3 weeks before Mary's final awakening. For now, he had other matters to attend to. He arrived at the edge of the hunting ground forest to meet someone and realized he needed more eye drops. As he began to slip, he feigned a fall, smirking slyly as he lamented dropping a seed into a puddle, expressing his distress over losing a precious seed given to him by his mother. Suddenly, someone appeared, asking why he was crying so loudly. Corinne smiled to himself, recognizing this individual as a hidden element with power that could only be wielded once in the heroic legends of Arhen, the god of the golden axe. The tale of a woodcutter who drops his iron axe into a lake and is asked by the god if he owns a gold or silver axe is well known. Since the original story featured unique weapons, tossing low-level items into the lake seemed pointless. However, a seasoned player had attempted the challenge with random items, with some participants even discarding very rare items. The developers seemed to have left this quirky reference, hinting at the absurdity of someone throwing a mandrake seed, which was worth 100 points, into the lake. The god then asked if the golden seed belonged to him. Corinne declined. When the god inquired about the silver seed, he refused again. The god then held out an ordinary seed, laughing as he asked if this one was his. Corinne, feigning despair, agreed that it was indeed his, realizing he was the madman who had thrown the seed into the lake. The god noted that despite seeing the gold and silver, Corinne had not been tempted by them and valued his honesty, awarding him all 3 seeds as a result. The god submerged into the water, bidding farewell. Corinne thanked him, expressing his hope that the god would take care of himself. He chuckled slyly, delighted that items could be cloned. He believed that while a normal seed would significantly enhance his monopole, the gold and silver seeds had unique effects. A mandrake would sprout from the golden seed, radiating a golden light, while a mandrake from the silver seed would shine with silver light. Corinne realized this was his chance to acquire those hidden fragments. In his previous life, Park Siege had consumed the golden seed, while he had eaten the silver one, but now all of them were his. Regarding the awakening of Marius as a unique rank vampire and the boss of the first arc, it stemmed from a mission involving John Doe from Misty City. He was uncertain about how the demonic factor in Marius' body would awaken, but time was still on his side. The reason he had showcased his prowess in front of the notable second-ranked characters was that no one would ally with a weak knight, and innate talent and strength were the first things that would attract such individuals. They would recover in a week, and that was when he would propose forming a team. The boss of the first arc of the heroic legends, a unique rank vampire named Maria Dunnerf, was just 3 weeks from awakening. A girl sitting beside the bed awakened and noticed Maria sitting up. She stood next to her, asking if she was okay and how her neck felt. This first-year girl had to hold back as she was limited to low-level magic. Corin thought that if he could prepare adequately, build trust, and gather enough participants, he could easily save this girl from a grim fate. Until then, he would assist Arisha with her training, recruit Doran Varskai, the Sword Master, persuade Yule, the Avalorn Druid, to join and get closer to Cranol Laden. Corin clapped his fist into his palm, convinced he had devised the perfect plan. All he needed to do was prepare well, and everything would become easier, until something unexpected occurred. Maria opened her eyes, revealing a change in color. The girl was astonished by what she saw. Maria lunged at her, ready to bite, and declared that she was thirsty. Sometime later, H. Waring closed a book and remarked on how boring it was. Josephine sat nearby, suggesting she shouldn't have been sent there and that if H. Waring wanted to learn, she would provide lessons herself. In the meantime, H. Waring was advised to reflect on her behavior. Peering out the window, H. Waring wondered if she could escape by climbing over the fence. Corin startled her by hanging down at the window's level, stating he knew she would be there. He asked if her name was H. Waring and if they had met before. Introducing himself, he asked if she could open the window and handed her a box of cakes he had chosen randomly, explaining that he didn't want to arrive empty-handed. Waring opened the window, reminding him that visiting was against academy rules. Korin smiled, insisting he was just sitting in a tree and that it wasn't a big deal. He mused that Josephine didn't seem to be around at the moment. He reflected on how she seemed unscathed and speculated whether she had been confined and barred from visitors due to the incidents that occurred during the hunting grounds. Keeping someone locked up for more than 4 days like this was excessive. Of course, being a special half-human explains Josephine's concern. Waring mentions that the professor hasn't just been missing, she's been gone for over 4 days. Suddenly, the branch Korin was hanging from breaks, causing him to fall as he asks what she just said. He's astonished that she hasn't visited during this time, to which Waring agrees. Korin lands on the ground and cries out in pain. The system announces that the hardy warrior's regeneration has been activated. Waring looks at him through the window, and Korin comments on how painful the fall was, promising to buy her food when they meet again. He rushes off, contemplating how Josephine has left the most dangerous individual at Merkaba Academy unattended. Something unusual is unfolding. A witch flies down the city street, asking if he has found her. Parmac Damon responds that he hasn't yet and plans to search the area thoroughly. As Korin runs past them, he notes the sight of 2 former protectors, Magic Department Professor Dane and Night Department Professor Parmac Damon, and wonders what is wrong. The man guarding the entrance questions Korin's intentions. After his request to visit was denied, Korin, with food in hand, smiles and clarifies that's not the reason he's there. He introduces himself as Crone from Group 3, stating that Professor Josephine asked him to bring some food and drinks. Crone chuckles, acknowledging the professor's attentiveness to her students. Korin thinks about how his request to see Maria was declined and that Isabel is missing too. Crone begins eating food marked with a rune, leading Korin to think it's already strange that a guard is assigned to the infirmary. The more he reflects, the more certain his suspicions grow. Suddenly, Crone begins to feel ill due to the runes. Korin, with a smile, inquires about his discomfort, suggesting a nearby restroom. Crone hurriedly runs off, asking if he can guard the door for a moment, explaining he needs to leave but can't enter. Korin agrees, reassured that he won't go inside. He ponders whether he's made a mistake, realizing a whole month remains, and this is happening far too soon. He plans to pull back the blanket from the bed, hoping his suspicions are unfounded. Throwing back the blanket, he calls out for Maria, only to be shocked to find Isabel exactly where she should be. He notices 2 bite marks on her neck, solidifying his doubts about what the professor was trying to conceal. Anger wells within him as he realizes Maria Dunoff has awakened as the first boss of the vampires, and this happened 3 weeks earlier than anticipated. To defeat the first arc's boss, one must overcome 3 phases. The first phase involves handling a wave of monsters, which is relatively straightforward. The second phase requires utilizing magic circles for protection, after which it's essential to inflict damage. The third phase pits them against a powerful enemy rampaging in the Blood Realm. Upon completing the third phase, a final challenge is triggered, featuring a critical mechanic. Even without a player, gathering all the named characters together wouldn't be overly difficult for reaching the third phase, but Arisha Arden is injured because of him. Doran Varsky has lost his combat power due to him as well, and Kranil Liden has restored the golem's core, again linked to him. All named characters are incapacitated because of his actions. Korin clutches his head, realizing he's in deep trouble now. In the original timeline, after one encounter in Misty City, Maria attacked her roommate in a fit of rage. In his previous life, they had waited under the dorm where Maria and Isabel stayed, hoping to sort things out quickly. Park Seach had deliberately let Maria go then, but now everything was in disarray because of him. Arisha's bones must be shattered, and the core of the Kranil golem likely destroyed, rendering it nearly useless. Although he considered Waring, he couldn't predict how her involvement would change the situation. Later, in the corner of the training hall, Korin suggests it's akin to an employment commission for a mercenary. The challenge is extreme, requiring someone to be found and brought back alive. Doran questions his sanity, explaining that mercenaries typically avoid battles they can't win and that he's also broken his sword, leaving him with only 2. Korin, not fully listening, offers Doran 20 gold pieces. He presents the soul dust card, stating if Doran doesn't trust it, he can take it as collateral. This item contains 100% pure composition with no impurities. Before he can finish, Doran's eyes light up as he declares Korin a worthy employer. The system notifies that Doran has joined his group. Later, in the library, Korin takes out a book, revealing magical inscriptions that emit a faint glow. Yule, surprised, asks how he discovered this, thinking all the records had been lost in the forest fire. Korin explains he read about it in a book once, adding that she's using Ugam and came to find it. He closes the book, promising to teach her everything if she helps him. Yul takes this seriously and asks what she needs to do in return. The system announces that she has joined his group. After a short while in the dining room, Korin sits across from Jaeger and Lark, stating that he is now searching for a team. He warns them that it's a tough job with low pay and significant danger, especially since they could die facing a particularly strong demon. However, if they succeed, they'll earn honor and glory. Both of them seem lost in thought, intently focused on him. He wonders if this is too much for them. They both smile and respond that it sounds romantic and they're in. Korin feels delighted that they are so caught up in the romantic notion. Soon after, he heads out with his team, thinking that he has met the minimum requirements to survive the first phase. This is the best he can do for now. He recalls Park C's words about how she had cried and hidden in the forest afterward, making it quite challenging to find her. Who would have thought such a powerful person would dig a tunnel and hide in the woods for an entire month? Korin reflects that Maria had been hiding in the woods. There's only one forest within the Merkaba Academy. Sometime later, while in the hunting grounds, someone questions if she is really there, referring to Senior Maria. Doran asks Korin, though he understands their goal, how they will locate her. Korin responds that it may take a couple of years to find her, but they only need to ask so he won't worry. Yul takes this seriously, asking how much he knows. She strikes her staff and channels her energy, creating a bright glow. Using her magic, she calls upon the spirits to guide them to Maria. Lark and Jaeger watch in astonishment as numerous spirits appear. Doran notices this and thinks that judging by their reactions, countless spirits are responding to Yul's call. Of course he can't see anything and asks what they've found. Did they locate Maria? All the members of Korin's group are taken aback by what they see, and Yul, confused, agrees with their observations. Korin, embarrassed, asks why they're all staring. Where is Maria? Someone is about to warn him about something behind, but he spots a monster attack and immediately strikes back with his spear. Korin swiftly turns and delivers a quick thrust, defeating the monster, then questions why it happened so suddenly. Doran is surprised and loudly alerts Korin that monsters are approaching from the front. Jaeger and Lark, confused, wonder if Senior Maria has turned into a monster. Korin, equally bewildered, insists that it's not true. Lark pulls out his grimoire and begins casting a spell. Jaeger laughs, grinning widely, and asks if a rabbit dares to attack a hunter. This is perfect for a warm-up. Korin rushes over, telling Jaeger not to charge ahead since he is surrounded by monsters and needs to take 3 steps back. They can't rush in, they need to gradually reduce their numbers with Lark covering the rear. He races toward the crowd and instructs Yul to stick with him, adding that Doran doesn't need any explanations. She just shouldn't stray too far. As Doran fights off the monsters, he glances at Korin and realizes he's remarkably composed even amidst the sudden attack. He effectively gives commands and distributes support. This guy is not only strong but also an experienced leader and strategist, guiding the group adeptly. It's hard to believe he's only a 5th-ranked knight. It seems like a significant oversight to award such a rank. Jaeger turns around, expressing that he thought Maria was there. So what's the outcome? It's an endless wave of monsters. Yul concentrates on the battle, saying the spirits guided her to do this. Lark asks if Senior Maria is controlling them, noting that such monsters never move in groups like this and appear more ferocious than usual. Korin denies it, asserting she isn't a puppet master who can command these monsters. Even if she could, she wouldn't manage them so poorly. Doran asks then what is going on. Why are they under attack? Korin speculates there might be another factor at play. Monsters act based on their instincts, and something unusual may have occurred, causing them to abandon their usual behaviors. Perhaps they encountered something irresistible and had to flee. They are taken aback when they see Maria radiating dark red energy. Korin warns them to prepare for battle, telling the mages to step back. Lark remarks that they don't have a moment to rest. Yul steps back to join him, questioning if this is acceptable. Korin insists that the rest should take a step back to provide support. Doran notes that it seems Korin has a plan, so he will trust him. Jaeger inquires if this step is significant or minor. Doran, fixated on the opponent before him, declares he will take the front line. The system then announces that the 3rd commandment for saving the world, Mary Dunnerf, has been activated. Stamina has increased by 50%. Its aura rank stands at 14,480, with an additional 740 points. The level is low. Mana rank is at 920, along with 460 extra points. Its level is very low. Strength, agility, stamina, aura, and mana are all at 26, with an additional 13 points. Corin clutches her spear and thinks about the fate of Marius, the impact it will have on this world. It must be that the power-ups he received are not based on a one-time event of the first arc, but the impact it will have on the world in the future. The system notifies that the commandment he will save the world, he must take the first